Well, hi everyone, it's Paul here again from Volaticus Films, an aerial production company interested in flight simulation and aviation. Today we're going to do a continuation from one of our previous flights, which went into Block Island, just south of Rhode Island. This is a 2,500 foot runway. We are here with the Cirrus SF50 that I have been enjoying just recently. I'm going to do a very short flight here. I thought set myself a bit of a challenge to get into a shorter airfield, which is something the SF50 is very capable of doing. So I had a look in the near area, and there's an airport called Matituck. I'm just going to bring that up on ForeFlight. It's an asphalt runway. It's 671 meters long, 18 meters wide. So it's not a very long runway. It's not a very wide runway. It's a little shorter than the one we have here at Block Island. Main concern I have today is the weather on two fronts. First of all, looks like we probably have about a 2,500 foot cloud base, which is fine. We'll get above that. It's a fairly short flight. But the problem with it is going to be the wind, because the runway at Matituck is 0119 and the wind's generally from the east. Just going to quickly check, try and get up some weather at the moment from East Hampton. Statute miles 10, 2,500. So that's wind is from the east in general. So what we're planning to do, because it's not a clear day, and I want to get high enough to do the jump from Block Island to the coast at Jordan, get up to about 5,000 feet. That's going to put us above the cloud layer. So that's why I decided to shoot the RNAV approach into whatever it's called, KHTO, East Hampton, to actually fly the approach for runway 28, which is actually with quite a big tailwind. The reason for that is if we decide to go in there, we can always break off and fly straight into the downwind and then land on the easterly runway. The plan, however, will be to continue to 21 November, the little private airfield. Well, I presume it's private, just over the water there. And if we have no success getting in there, we can go back to East Hampton. So that's the plan. I have already put in a basic route. It goes from the Sierra Echo Yankee VOR, and then starts the RNAV approach to 28 at East Hampton, which starts at Jordan, Bigger, Feast, etc., etc. So that's already in ForeFlight. I've done nothing yet in the aircraft, so let's go and get into the aircraft at this time. Have a quick look on the outside, of course, something that I don't tend to do very often, but we just sort of check the airframe and everything, make sure that it's a bit difficult to control it at this point, but actually to make sure the engine inlet and exhaust is okay. Also check the wheels and tyre condition, check for any leaks, and the airframe, of course. Also, it'd be useful to check the lights as well. We'll give ourselves the benefit of the doubt there. Let's just get into the aircraft at this point. Quick check on the weather. We can see looks like an overcast layer where we are currently based at KBID. So let's bring that open now. KBID. So this is would be the right one if I actually typed it correctly. So Block Island, and check the weather there. So it's this marginal VFR, 10 miles, overcast 2,700, temperature 3, dew point -2, altimeter 3040. What I will do is we'll switch the electrics on, and I'm going to get the local ATIS, which is the explain ATIS. Because this forecast from ForeFlight, we really do need to use the explain ATIS for to get the accurate weather. Okay. Let's just resize that screen. Okay, so the ATIS is 13477. I'll wear my mouse out at this rate. Switch.
Block Island State weather. Wind 080 at 18, gust 28. Visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 2900, overcast. Temperature 4. Dew point -2. Altimeter 3037.
Wow. 3037, that's very high pressure. There we go. 3037, 100 foot. And according to full flight, elevation 107 foot. So actually it reads about 110 on there. So it's always good to check we've got that set correctly for the airfield. Next thing is to put in the route, but before we do that, we want to just make sure, if we go to the map, that East Hampton, to make sure the weather's going to be suitable for us in there as well. So wind is from the east, 10 nautical miles, visibility overcast 2500, 3037 as well. So that's fine, that's marginal VFR. Okay, let's put the route in now. So for this, I'll just open the second box, the navigation display, and make that a little bit smaller. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I've got some hotkeys that are set up for this screen and not the other one. So the previous route, which is the route that got us here in the first place, is still in there. I'm just going to come down and get rid of that, so delete. FMS button, put in the destination, so KHTO is the destination at this point. East Hampton. And then cursor back up, and what we're going to do is we're going to fly via the Sierra Echo Yankee. So we'll put that in. That's almost co-located with the airfield here. Okay, Sandy Point. Okay. And then the rest of it is actually the RNAV approach into East Hampton. So what I will do is I'll click the procedure, select the approach. Oh, what's going on there? And we will go with the RNAV 10 Yankee. I'll just bring up the charts looking at earlier. So it's RNAV Yankee runway 28. Oops, that's not right. That one. Enter that. Vectors will be via Jordan. And you see why I've done it this way. And we'll load that. So that should now appear below our route there. So what we can do after departure, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put Jordan in as a point before KHTO. So let's do that now. And that becomes part of a flight plan then, rather than the approach. So it's JORDN. Oh, wait. That's the one. In. Okay, so 16.6 miles from the VOR here at Block Island. That's good. And then we start the approach into East Hampton from there, starting at, well, 2,000 feet above sea level at Bigger. But if we have a look at the approach, the Jordan 2 bigger route's 2,000 feet, so we need to obviously going to climb up to 5,000 and then start the descent approximately halfway across the stretch of water there. And then it's a fairly easy approach direct into 2.8. And as I say, what we'll do is we'll do the missed approach there, but instead of flying out to Matthew and the hold, we'll actually, it's more or less a straight line. Look at East Hampton here. Probably about a 10-degree turn to the right, and then wind permitting, that will get us to 21 November. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Just check the fuel level, which is a bit under half, which is absolutely fine. I'm just going to set the elevator trim higher. Have a look at all our other values here. We've got the electrics on, the generators not on at this time. Okay, that's good. What I will do is switch the strobe and nav lights on. We're only up to 5,000. I'm not going to worry about pressurization, so I think I can keep the master oxygen off. Let's just set up our altitude for our climb. So we'll set up 5,000. So I just want a bit of altitude to get us clearly above the cloud layer, hopefully. Don't really want to be sitting in cloud for the sake of it. Runway, we'll set runway heading. We'll fly out holding pitch and the wings level, and then take it from there. First point will be the Sierra Echo Yankee VOR, which is co-located with us here. And you can see SEY there. It's just more or less on the field. In fact, you can see it straight. that building, that structure rather, straight ahead. That's the VOR there. Okay, so it's definitely on the field. I'll just configure the screens a little bit. This takes a little bit of preparation here. That's fine, that'll be fine. So I've got hotkeys to switch those things off. Check the lights, strobes and position lights are working fine. So let's go for an engine start. Doors closed, brakes on. Check around. And we are monitoring the N2 and EGT gauge, even though it's automated on this aircraft. We've got the EGT shooting up there, and it should start to come down, which it is. N1 stabilising, so that's very good. Just waiting for our oil temperature and pressure to come into the green. We can switch the generators on now. Okay, so 5,000 foot. We'll do our usual attitude climb on the way out, turn back to the beacon, and then direct to Jordan, and then we'll load the approach in. So pretty well ready to go. Okay, quick check around. So you do need a huge amount of power to get this aircraft moving. So just a quick check on the windsock. There's no doubt or question about that. That's right down the runway. That's quite a strong wind. It's not quite as down the runway as I'd like it. Right, quick brake check. They're fine. And I'm just testing the control surfaces. And that's okay. Yeah, so the wind is, you see it's not quite straight down the runway. It's about 20 degrees off.
Approaching runway
Okay.
10. Entered runway 10. 732 meters remaining.
So ForeFlight's just giving us an annotation there, which tells us we've entered the runway and how much runway we have remaining. So it's not particularly short runway for this aircraft. It's quite manageable. We can get in and out of really get in and out of airports with runways 2,000 odd foot, depending on the loading. We're about 3/4 loaded today. Okay, ready to go. Let's just check, get the landing light on. Yeah. I think we're okay there. I have the screens up in front of me here. Looking for 75 knots for the rotate. There we go. And we'll switch the autopilot in at this point. You see the trim is kind of fighting a little bit. And then just bring the power back a little bit for about 90% N1. So it's trying to hold the wings level. We'll set the heading there and then put it into heading mode. So we're currently on pitch hold, which is giving us 2,200 feet a minute. I'm just going to switch that to 1,800 foot. And we'll swing the heading around, do a left turn. So that should start accelerating us. Seems very laboured at this point. Well, I was about to give you a wing view, but we've just gone into cloud at that point. Which is what we expected, 2,900, 3,000. So I'm hoping the cloud layer is not too thick and get above it, VFR on top, as they say. What I am going to do now is hit the nav button, which switches to GPS mode, and that should then follow our track, which takes us from Say to Jordan. Now we're pointing in the right direction, we can actually start speeding up a little bit. There we are, just above the cloud, which is great. Just in time. So I don't know what that is, this odd triangle to the left there, where the sea would be. I saw that on the way in as well. It's a bit distracting, but I'm Maybe something to do with the, it might be to do with the orthographic Ortho XP tile for some reason. So we should start a descent now. Start come down to 3,000 initially, and I'll do that through vertical speed, and we'll set 1,000 foot a minute descent. Quite a strong tail. We've got 20 knots odd, ground speed 244 knots, so that's very welcome. It's definitely gusty though. Actually just set 2,000 now, because that's where we need to be on at Jordan. If you look at the chart, Jordan 2 bigger 2,000, so we're not going to worry about whether we're actually getting there exactly by the point we reach Jordan. I'm just going to throw a little surprise in for myself there. We've now had an engine failure. I wasn't expecting that at all. Okay, the very first thing we need to do is to set the best glide attitude. So this aircraft does glide rather well. Now, the other thing is obviously to check for a suitable place to land. Now I can see on ForeFlight there does look like an airfield off to the right. Let's just bend the wing over slightly. Oh yeah, there's one there. Okay, so that looks like it might be suitable. I'm going to take the autopilot off. Stop fighting that. I've just closed the throttle. Normally you would do a number of checks to make sure, try to resolve the problem, get the engine started. We don't have a massive amount of height, and we also have a massive tailwind, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to go too far past that airport. Okay, so that warning was is because the speed has dropped below, I think, 120, and the gear's not down. So just excuse that at the moment, because that's going to be quite annoying. But the gear acts like air brakes, and we certainly don't want to have that deployed at this point. Just want to get the best glide and trim for that. I'm just turning across the airport path at this point. I'm just going to zoom in on ForeFlight. So, quick check on this airport. It's about 3 kilometers long, 23 meters wide. That's quite adequate. I'm going to assume that the wind is going to be favouring landing towards the east. There it is. So we do have a bit of a beach we could land on. The other thing about this aircraft is we have the parachute. I just can't help feeling that we don't really want to be using the parachute unless we absolutely have to. So one thing we really need to do, and this is quite challenging in this aircraft. Let's get rid of these a moment. We need to sort of plan the approach a little bit. So what I'm going to do is fly out to the harbour, just to the west of the airfield, and use that. Now we've got adequate runway. I'm going to keep gear up and flaps up until I absolutely am sure I'm going to make it. The underrun is not going to be very favourable, so don't want to do that. And there's forestry around, so we really want to make sure we manage to get in there. So I'm just looking ahead, just beyond the runway point at this point. The peninsula on the other side. God, this wind's really throwing me around here. Yeah, we don't want to be going too far out, because that's quite a strong wind. Let's turn in now. And gear can come down at this point. Flaps in. I'm going to do some S turns here, so I didn't judge that particularly well. So that next stage of flap, that really is brutal. Really fighting with the controls here. I can breathe again. Oh my goodness. Brakes on. Okay, let's review that flight. It was all over the place though. You just have to do what you have to do. Yeah, let's start there. Oh my goodness. It's not the most elegant of approaches. So there's second stage of flap. You absolutely do not want that in until you are committed. Actually quite a smooth landing in relative terms, but my goodness. And a short one. I mean, there's probably a 30-knot wind blowing there. So yes, that's a very short landing roll. Okay, I just wanted to throw that in. It wasn't 100% a surprise, of course, because I had planned to do something like that. But that's all I wanted to show you. So obviously, you know, this aircraft does glide really well. It does have that short field performance. So even in the event of an engine failure, you can get in to almost any airfield, and even worst case scenario, could have probably landed on the beach. We do have the parachute. The problem with that is it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you have absolutely no control. If we launch that, we end up flying into a tree or flying to a building or landing on a highway or something like that. We have absolutely no control. So a little bit like if you're equipped with a parachute as a pilot, you are much better trying to land, stay in the plane and get it landed on a runway or a beach than exiting and hoping you know how to operate it. But anyway, short video this time. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it the thumbs up and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I will be doing more flights, hopefully not too many engine failures, but it's always good to throw something in there for the practice. Okay, see you in the next one. Thanks for your company today and take care. Bye bye.